All right. The issues with the NFL Players Association, and I have been encouraged by the engagement that I've witnessed from fans. It took the media a little while to come along. You know, it's funny to see the statement that was issued yesterday by the NFLPA Executive Committee to a variety of reporters who had been completely ignoring, head in the sand, any of the issues dating back to the Pablo Torre Finds Out episode, where I joined him to unveil the 61-page collusion ruling that had been jointly hidden by the league and the union, that inexplicably the union had failed to use as a hammer against the NFL. Once we started down that path, all of the usual suspects ignored it. It wasn't until Don Van Natta Jr. and Kalen Kaler of ESPN, who aren't part of the drip, let's find out the stuff they're going to announce in 5 minutes anyway crowd. They're more of the let's find out stuff they don't want us to know crowd. And that is a far more thankless position. They advanced the story to the point where their report from Thursday of last week that Lloyd Howell, the NFLPA executive director, is working part-time. And it just, I still want to laugh when I say it. It's ludicrous to me. He's working part-time as a paid consultant for a private equity fund that has been pre-approved by the NFL to be on a short list of private equity funds that can buy a minority interest in NFL teams. And that's fine. And the NFLPA has no qualms about it. That created, I think, some stuff at the NFLPA. Whatever the fire was, and there was plenty of chatter that Howell could be out and Don Davis could be in as the interim executive director. That was rampant. No one had reported that, but that talk was out there. By Friday afternoon, threat neutralized. Lloyd Howell isn't resigning. Lloyd Howell isn't going to be removed anytime soon. The process needs to play out. And so on Sunday, a weekend in the summertime is a great reset on a news cycle. The NFLPA should have just let it go. As Chris Long said on the Greenlight podcast late last week, all they have to do is kick the can to the opening of camps and everyone will move on. That's when the bright, shiny objects start rolling down the assembly line, Lucy and the Chocolate style, and all of us with our goldfish brains forget about all this other crap and focus on the next game, the next thing, the next whatever comes out of the games that are to be played. All they had to do was get to the Hall of Fame game. It's 17 games away. That's all they have to do now. 17 days away, excuse me. So on Sunday, that's what made this statement that got circulated to many reporters who have otherwise ignored the entire story. And I'm sure for a lot of people, this statement drops into their Twitter feed and they're like, what the hell is this? And my suspicion is, semi-educated guess is, a lot of players were like, what the hell is this? And I wonder how this thing was received by players who previously didn't know anything about these issues, previously didn't know that there had been a partial victory in the collusion case that was hidden for months by Howell. Didn't know that there was a conflict of interest question as it relates to the Carlyle Group, the private equity fund that Lloyd Howell works for on the side. He worked for them at the time he was hired by the NFLPA. And then a year later, that's when the Carlyle Group joined this select group of private equity funds that can buy a piece of NFL teams, a pretty lucrative investment. Players maybe, because remember the Lloyd Howell hiring process, it was all top secret with NDAs and nobody said anything. We want to keep the meddling members of the media from trying to divide us. And that leads me to the statement from yesterday, because that was my big takeaway. It's about attacking those on the outside who dare to pay attention to the story, who dare to share fair, honest opinions about the story. And they decried in the statement that was issued by the executive committee false reports about this, that. There are no false reports about these things they're complaining about. The only thing that happened last week that would speak to the existence of doubt within the union was executive committee member Cam Hayward telling ESPN, in declining to comment on the story that they did, he can't talk because the situation at the union is currently, quote unquote, dicey. So, look, It's not surprising that that's the move that was made by the union, because it's right out of the modern American political playbook. Attack, 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 deny, 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 and declare victory and retreat if necessary. That's the formula. It's predictable, but it is also kind of sad, because at the core of this is the reality that you've got a rank and file NFLPA union membership that is not as engaged as they need to be. And that lack of engagement has been used against them by the league. It's being used against them now by their leadership. And I don't know how much of this executive committee statement has Lloyd Howell and or Chief Strategy Officer J.C. Tretter's fingerprints on it, but I saw it and I thought, this is just strange, because we're getting closer and closer to all of this dying down. Why kick the story up when, and from Friday to Sunday, I know it's only 48 hours, but as NFL news goes, it's 48 years. It was dying down. It was going away. They didn't need to do it. And what probably happened is, and this is just a guess, they probably decided at some point on Friday, we need to say something. And then it probably took them a couple of days to get to the right statement. And by the time they got to the right statement, they didn't stop and think, hey, you know what? Maybe we should say nothing. See, once you've sat down and put together the statement, whether it's somebody on the outside who was paid to do it, somebody on the inside who was paid to do it, you have effort justification that comes into play. Hey, we've put all this time and or potentially money into creating this statement. Now we got to use it. Wait a minute. We spent the last 2 days putting this thing together, and now we're going to stick it in the drawer next to where the collusion grievance used to be. So the whole thing was just kind of strange. And I wonder where it goes from here. I wonder what further reporting will happen this week, because there are 3 issues that an outside lawyer is investigating, presumably. It started with the One Team Partners probe, something about compensation, potentially equity options, whatever, some sort of something that was possibly available to MLB PA Executive Director Tony Clark and to Lloyd Howell as the NFLPA Executive Director, because this One Team Partners, this licensing group, is a product of multiple different sports unions. Something landed on the FBI's radar screen. There's an investigation. There's something. And at some point, an outside lawyer was hired to look into Lloyd Howell's activities related to that. Well, now that we've got the mini uproar, should be bigger, mini uproar over the collusion grievance ruling that was hidden by Howell, and this fresh look at the conflict of interest that was never really fleshed out at the time because everything was a secret. See, this is what happens when you work in secrecy with no transparency. There are issues that never get an opportunity to be fully vetted and discussed. Why in the hell would Lloyd Howell not have been told at the time he took the job, you've got to give up all external employment? Why does he need external employment? He's making $3.6 million, or at least he did his first full year on the job. So presumably he's going to keep making that range of money. Why do you need outside employment? Why do you, especially once a pretty clear conflict of interest arises? Oh, we fully investigated the situation. It was determined there's no actual conflict. He's working in a completely different side of the bit. None of that stuff matters. The Carlyle Group is in bed with the NFL, and Lloyd Howell is in bed with the Carlyle Group. And the NFL is the mortal enemy of the National Football League Players Association. And the players deserve better than that cloud, that question. It isn't whether or not we can ever prove that Lloyd Howell exercised his discretion in a way that was undermined by his separate relationship with the Carlyle Group, because he didn't want the NFL to get upset and complain to someone about the Carlyle Group who might not renew Lloyd Howell's contract. You shouldn't even have the pieces in place. Like, even if the puzzle is never completed, the pieces to the puzzle shouldn't be on the table. That's the problem. And That's not me trying to get Lloyd Howell fired. Lloyd, if you think that, you're incorrect. You have a conflict of interest that you refuse to acknowledge. And where is Lloyd Howell in all of this? Why isn't he saying something? Why isn't J.C. Treader saying something? Are they speaking between the lines of the executive committee statement? I don't know. But this shouldn't go away. It might. Hopefully, others will continue. Either the ones who haven't realized there's something there yet will jump in, more the merrier. Either that'll happen or the ones who are already reporting it. Because I think a statement like what came out yesterday will serve only to make the people who have been following this story more determined to keep following it. And right now, the list is 4. Pablo Torre, Don Van Natta Jr., Kalen Kaler, and me. That's it. Those are the ones who are trying to drill down and get to the truth. And if anybody else wants to get involved, the bandwagon has unlimited space. We'll see how that plays out. And again, this is all from the interest of 2 things. One, getting to the truth, being transparent, pulling things into the sunlight. That's one. The other, I do have the best interest of the players at heart. And I don't want to be the NFLPA executive director. I don't want to be the kingmaker. As I may have said last week, I've had plenty of people reaching out to me, pushing different angles. Like, look, I'm not getting into a Game of Thrones thing here. I'm not trying to help someone position. No. I care about the players. The players ultimately have to pick who their next leader will be if they choose to move on from their current leader. I care about making sure that they are properly positioned for the next CBA negotiations, because here's what's coming, players, in the next CBA negotiations. 1, 18-game regular season. 2, up to 16 international games per year. And 3, your 50-50 split of every dollar that comes through the cash register, that's gone. Oh, trust me, that's gone. And the question is, what are they going to give you? What are they going to pay you? What is your best financial deal going to be? Because they know at the end of the day, whatever the best offer is before the day comes for you to lose game checks and not get to play football, you will take it. And I'm surprised they haven't driven a harder bargain in the past. And I'm concerned they're going to drive a harder bargain than ever now, because I don't know that your current non-player leadership is in position to fend them off the way that maybe they should. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.